I've seen kids get diagnosed with scoliosis and have their entire lives changed for them overnight. And it's not because of the curve that gets found, it's because of what they are told about whatever curve is found when they go to somebody about some sort of back issue. Because typically it's not because they have scoliosis they go seek treatments, because they're having some sort of discomfort, and then it becomes uh, an artifact, finding after the fact. That's what I meant to say. So what ends up happening is they're told to stop lifting, to stop playing their sport that they enjoy, to be careful, and that they need to be protecting their back. And everyone acts surprised when the kid turns around and becomes weaker and more fearful. And I was just dealing with this recently in clinic with a young man who told me that we were going to work on some squats, and he told me that he was told that he's not supposed to put a bar on his back because of a mild scoliosis, which is patently false. So the research doesn't support any of this stuff. And some recent things that came around found that sports participation is actually associated with lower rates of progressions and lower rates of the need or the use of bracing in adolescents with milder idiopathic scoliosis. So think about that. Many times these kids are told to stop doing the thing that is probably going to end up being protective. So the problem is that people have been confused for a long time that for some reason this diagnosis of scoliosis equals a disability. And a curve on the x-ray does not automatically mean that you're a fragile human. And actually, I've taken a lot of x-rays in 20 years, and there's the majority of people have some sort of lateral curvature to their spine, and it doesn't matter in any way. So what ends up actually hurting these kids when they're told they have scoliosis is the fear that comes along with it. And then that fear leads to leads them pulling out of training and sport, which ends up causing deconditioning, reduced confidence, and that whole idea that they're being told in some ways that their spine is defective is a big issue, and that fear and deconditioning and loss of confidence. So, my hot take is I'd much rather have a strong teenager that has a scoliosis diagnosis than a weak teenager that has some sort of perfect spinal imaging. And let's just stop and be adults just for 1 second. There are curves that need monitoring. That's true. I'm not poo-pooing all of it. And there is even instances where bracing is appropriate. But I have seen surgical intervention being necessary depending on the severity. Because there are instances where scoliosis can become so severe that it starts to affect the function of the internal organs. And in those cases, we need to there needs to be some sort of monitoring and decision made. And those are real things. But every kid with some sort of 12-degree curve in their back doesn't need to be told that they can't play soccer anymore. And the goal isn't to turn around and protect them for the rest of their life. The goal is to turn around and help them prepare for the rest of their life. And kids with scoliosis, if you look at these more recent literature work on it, they don't need less activity. The activity seems to be protective and keeping it from progressing. So they need more confidence, they need more strength, and they need to have less fear. So if you are a clinician, if you are a coach, if you're some sort of healthcare provider, please quit being part of the problem.